Princess Yuna walked through the crystal halls of the palace. Her blue dress swept the floor as she moved. The walls around her sparkled with light from 3 suns. But today the beauty could not hide her worry. Her father, Emperor Dohyun, was dying. Someone had put poison in his food 3 days ago. The doctors could not save him. Now Yuna had to take his place as ruler of the Drakari Empire. The empire was huge. It had over 1,000 worlds. Many different species lived there. Humans, cat-like Falari, the tall Zephyrians, and dozens of others. They all served under the Drakari flag. But there was a war. The Nexari coalition wanted to destroy the empire. They had been fighting for 3 years. The empire was losing many battles. The generals were angry. Yuna reached the council chamber. 12 generals waited for her inside. They stood around a long table made of black stone. Their faces looked serious and cold. General Minho stepped forward. He was tall and had gray hair. He had served her father for 20 years. Yuna trusted him like family. "Princess," he said with a bow, "we must talk about the war." "Yes," Yuna replied. "Father told me about the problems. But we can win. We just need better plans." General Minho shook his head. "The problem is not our plans. The problem is our leadership." Yuna felt her heart stop. "What do you mean?" "Your father made mistakes," another general said. His name was Kang. "He let aliens into our army. He hired human mercenaries. These outsiders do not understand our ways. They fight well for us," Yuna said. "The humans saved our fleet at Kepler Station." "They are not Drakari," General Minho said firmly. "They do not have our honor. They do not have our blood. The soldiers do not trust them." General Su stepped closer. She was the only female general. "Princess, the council has made a decision. You cannot rule the empire." Yuna stared at them. "I am the heir. It is my birthright." "Your birthright failed when your father chose weakness over strength," General Minho said. "We will form a new government. A military council will lead the empire. You want me to give up the throne?" "Yes, for the good of the empire." Yuna felt anger rise in her chest. "I will not abandon my people. I will not break my father's promises." "Then you will face the consequences," General Minho said quietly. Far below in the palace, Captain Taiho watched the meeting on his datapad. He sat in the mercenary quarters with his men. They called themselves the Iron Ravens. There were 15 humans in his unit. Taiho had short black hair and scars on his hands from many battles. He came from a planet called New Sol. Like many humans, he left home to find work as a soldier. "This looks bad," said Corporal Hyun. He was young and still believed in good endings. "Very bad," agreed Sergeant Nari. She cleaned her rifle while she watched. "They want to remove the princess." "The generals do not like us," said Private Seok. "They think we are weak because we are not Drakari." Taiho nodded. He had seen the hate in their eyes. Many Drakari believed their blue skin and tall bodies made them better than other species. They thought their long lives and psychic powers meant they should rule everyone. But Taiho knew the truth. Power did not come from what you looked like. It came from what you chose to do. "Sir," Yun said, "what if they try to hurt the princess?" "Then we stop them," Taiho said simply. On the screen, Princess Yuna stood tall before the generals. "I will not give up the throne. I will lead our fleet against the Nexari. We will win this war together." "Together?" General Minho laughed. "You mean with aliens and humans? With creatures who do not share our blood?" "I mean with everyone who believes in justice," Yuna said. "My father built this empire on hope. Hope that different species could live in peace. I will not destroy that dream." General Kang stepped forward. "Then you are as foolish as he was." "I would rather be foolish than cruel," Yuna replied. The generals looked at each other. Taiho could see them making silent decisions. Their faces told a story of conspiracy. "Princess," General Minho said, "you have 3 days to think about our offer. After that, we will do what we must do." "I do not need 3 days," Yuna said. "My answer is no." She turned and walked toward the door. Her head was high and her steps were steady. But Taiho could see fear in her eyes. When she left, the generals began talking in low voices. The camera could not hear their words, but their meaning was clear. They were planning something terrible. "Corporal Hyun," Taiho said, "send a message to our friends in the alien units. Tell them to watch their backs." "Yes, sir." "Sergeant Nari, check our weapons and supplies. Make sure everything is ready." "Ready for what, sir?" "For war," Taiho said. "Not with the Nexari." with our own people. The next day, Princess Yuna met with her father. Emperor Dohyun lay in his bed, his blue skin pale and gray. The poison was winning. "Father," she said, holding his hand, "the generals want me to give up the throne." "I know," he whispered. "I heard about the meeting. What should I do?" Emperor Dohyun smiled weakly. "You should do what is right, not what is easy. They say the people do not trust the aliens. They say the humans are making us weak." "The humans saved my life twice," her father said. "Captain Taiho pulled me from a burning ship during the Battle of Titan's moon. His people fight harder than anyone I know. But our own generals hate them. Our generals fear them." Emperor Dohyun corrected. "They fear what they do not understand. Humans have something we Drakari lost long ago." "What is that?" "The ability to hope when everything looks hopeless. The power to keep fighting when they should give up. That is why they scare our generals." Princess Yuna squeezed her father's hand. "I will not abandon them. I will not abandon anyone." "Good, but be careful, my daughter. Fear makes people do terrible things." 2 days later, Emperor Dohyun died in his sleep. Princess Yuna became empress. But she did not have time to grieve. The fleet was gathering at Valdris Prime for the final battle against the Nexari. Over 1,000 ships waited in space. Soldiers from 50 worlds prepared for war. Yuna would address them from the flagship Eternal Glory. She would give them courage for the fight ahead. She would show them that the Empire stood united. But in the shadows, General Minho and his friends made different plans. They had decided that the new Empress was too dangerous to live. Her ideas about equality and cooperation threatened everything they believed. If she would not step down, they would remove her by force. Captain Taiho felt the danger like a storm coming. His instincts told him that something was wrong. The other mercenaries felt it too. Even the alien crew members seemed nervous. "Sir," Sergeant Nari said, "I do not like this. Too many guards around the ship." "Too many new faces, I know," Taiho replied. "Keep our weapons close. Keep our eyes open." "Do you think they will really try something?" Taiho looked at the stars through the window. Soon they would know the answer. "Get ready," he told his team. "Tomorrow everything changes." The Eternal Glory was the biggest ship in the fleet. It was 3 miles long and half a mile wide. Over 10,000 people lived and worked inside it. Today it would be the stage for Empress Yuna's first speech to her people. Captain Taiho walked through the lower decks with his iron ravens. The human quarters were in the deepest part of the ship. The Drakari put them there on purpose. They wanted to show that humans were the least important soldiers. "The meeting is in 2 hours," Corporal Hyun said. He checked his watch nervously. "I do not like this place," Private Seok added. "Too many corridors. Too many ways to get trapped." Sergeant Nari nodded. "The ship layout is wrong for a gathering. Too many blind spots. Too many places to hide weapons," Taiho agreed. "A good soldier learned to read spaces like books." The Eternal Glory felt like a trap waiting to close. They reached the security station on Deck 7. Taiho had friends there. Corporal Jun was a young Drakari who did not share his people's hate for other species. "Captain Taiho," Jun said quietly, "I need to show you something." He led them to a computer screen. "Look at the guard positions for today's speech." Taiho studied the display. Red dots showed where soldiers would stand during the Empress's address. The pattern was wrong. Instead of protecting the speaker, the guards surrounded the audience. "This is not a security plan," Taiho said. "This is a trap." "I thought so too," Jun replied. "But my commander said these orders came from General Minho himself. Where will the aliens be sitting?" Jun pointed to sections marked in blue. "Here, here, and here. All in the same areas." Taiho felt his stomach drop. The aliens were being grouped together. "Easy targets for a coordinated attack." "Jun, you need to get off this ship," Taiho said. "I cannot. I have duties." "Your duty is to survive. When this starts, do not fight for either side. Just hide." Jun stared at him. "Captain, what are you saying?" "I am saying that today some Drakari will show their true colors. And those colors are not pretty." High above in the Grand Assembly Hall, Empress Yuna prepared for her speech. The room could hold 3,000 people. Representatives from every world in the Empire would be there. Soldiers, officers, and civilian leaders all waited to hear her words. Captain Jiwoo stood beside her. He had been her friend since childhood. They learned sword fighting together. They studied history together. She trusted him completely. "Are you nervous?" Jiwoo asked. "A little," Yoon admitted. "This is my first speech as Empress. I want to say the right things." "You will do fine." Your father would be proud, Yuna smiled. Thank you, Jiwoo. Your friendship means everything to me. But behind his kind words, Jiwoo hid a dark secret. 3 days ago, General Minho had visited him in private. The general made Jiwoo an offer he could not refuse. The princess is going to destroy our empire, Minho had said. She will give power to aliens and humans. Our people will become slaves in their own worlds. The Empress would never do that, Jiwoo replied. She already is. Look at her policies. Look at who she promotes. Soon a human could command Drakari soldiers. A Falari could govern a Drakari world. Jiwoo felt doubt creep into his heart. What do you want me to do? Help us save the empire. Help us preserve our people's future. You want me to betray her? I want you to save her from making a terrible mistake. Now, as he stood beside Yuna, Jiwoo touched the weapon hidden under his coat. In 1 hour, everything would change. The assembly hall filled with people. Humans sat in the back sections. Falari delegates took their assigned seats. Zephyrian officers stood in their designated areas. The Drakari leadership sat in the front rows. Taiho and his ravens found positions near the emergency exits. They were not supposed to be in the main hall, but Taiho had convinced a guard to let them through. Something is wrong with the air recycling, Sergeant Nari said quietly. I can smell fear, she was right. Tension filled the room like smoke. People whispered nervously. Eyes darted back and forth. Even the alien delegates seemed uncomfortable. Empress Yuna walked onto the stage. She wore a simple blue dress and a small crown. She looked young and determined. The crowd fell silent. Citizens of the Empire, she began. Today we face our greatest challenge. The Nexari coalition wants to destroy everything our fathers built. Applause filled the hall, but Taiho noticed that not everyone was clapping. Some Drakari officers sat with their hands folded. But we will not fail, Yuna continued. We will win because we fight together. Human courage, Falari wisdom, Zephyrian strength, and Drakari honor. United we are unstoppable. More applause. This time even fewer Drakari joined in. I know some of you have doubts, Yuna said. Some think we should trust only our own species. But our strength comes from our diversity. A forest with only one type of tree dies easily. A forest with many types survives any storm. General Minho stood up in the front row. Your Majesty, may I speak? Yuna looked surprised. Of course, General. Minho walked to the center of the hall. Citizens, our Empress speaks of unity. But unity built on lies is weakness. Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. The humans failed to protect Kepler Station. Minho announced loudly. 3,000 Drakari died because human commanders retreated too early. Taiho felt anger rise in his chest. That was a lie. His people had saved the station and most of the fleet. The Falari gave our battle plans to the enemy, Minho continued. The Zephyrians refused to fight at Corona Prime. More lies. Taiho could see alien delegates shaking their heads in confusion and anger. General Minho, Yuna said firmly. Those accusations are false. You know that, do I? Minho smiled coldly. Or do you protect traitors because you share their blood? Gasps echoed through the hall. To suggest that the Empress was not pure Drakari was a deadly insult. That is enough, Yuna commanded. Return to your seat. I think not, Minho replied. He raised his hand. All around the hall, Drakari soldiers stood up. They drew their weapons and pointed them at the alien sections. Citizens, Minho announced, today the Empire is reborn. Today we cleanse it of foreign poison. Captain Jiwoo moved behind Yuna. His hand went to his sword. Jiwoo, Yuna said. Arrest General Minho for treason. Jiwoo drew his blade, but instead of pointing it at Minho, he aimed it at Yuna's back. I am sorry, he whispered. This is for the good of the Empire. Chaos erupted in the hall. Drakari soldiers opened fire on alien delegates. Screams filled the air. People ran in all directions. Taiho and his ravens immediately drew their weapons. They had prepared for this moment. Protect the civilians, Taiho shouted. Get them to the exits. His people spread out through the hall. They fired at Drakari soldiers who threatened alien families, but they were badly outnumbered. On the stage, Yuna faced Jiwoo's sword. You have been my friend since we were children. How can you do this? Because I love our people more than I love you, Jiwoo replied sadly. The general is right. The aliens will destroy us if we let them. The only thing being destroyed here is our honor, Yuna said. Jiwoo raised his sword. Goodbye, my friend. But before he could strike, a blast of energy hit him in the shoulder. He spun and fell to the ground. Taiho stood at the edge of the stage, his rifle smoking. "Your Majesty, we need to go now." Yuna stared at Jiwoo's body. Blood spread across the floor. "He was my friend." "He was a traitor," Taiho said firmly. "And there are more coming." Through the hall's main doors, 100 more Drakari soldiers marched in. They wore special black armor and carried heavy weapons. "The exits are blocked," Sergeant Nari reported through the radio. "They planned this perfectly." General Minho's voice echoed over the ship's speakers. "Citizens, do not resist. The old empire is dead. A new one is being born. Submit and you will be spared." Taiho looked at Empress Yuna. "Your Majesty, do you trust me?" "Yes." "Then we are going to do something crazy." He grabbed her hand and led her toward the observation deck. It was the only exit not blocked by soldiers. Behind them, the massacre continued. Alien screams mixed with weapon fire. The dream of unity was drowning in blood, but Taiho had a plan. It was dangerous and probably impossible, but impossible was what humans did best. "Where are we going?" Yuna asked as they ran. "To show the galaxy what real courage looks like," Taiho replied. They reached the observation deck just as more soldiers arrived. The huge windows showed the fleet hanging in space like stars. "Surrender," the soldiers commanded. "There is nowhere to run," Taiho smiled grimly. "Who said anything about running?" This was about to become a very different kind of battle. The observation deck of the Eternal Glory was beautiful and terrible. Huge windows showed the 1,000 ships of the Imperial fleet hanging in the darkness of space. Each ship held thousands of lives. All of them watched what happened next. Empress Yuna knelt on the cold metal floor. 50 Drakari soldiers surrounded her in a perfect circle. They held photon bows, weapons that shot arrows of pure energy. These bows were ancient. They were used for ceremonies and executions. General Minho wanted to send a message to the galaxy. The old empire was dead. The new empire would be pure. Only true Drakari blood would rule. "Citizens of the empire," Minho's voice echoed through every ship in the fleet. "Today you witness justice. The false empress dies for her crimes against our people." Yuna did not cry. She did not beg. She sat straight and looked directly at the cameras. Her blue dress was torn from the fight. Blood stained her hands, but her eyes still burned with determination. "I am not afraid," she said clearly. "I die for the dream my father built. A dream where all species can live in peace." "Your father was a fool," General Minho replied. He stood beside the camera, making sure everyone could see him. "And fools create only chaos." Behind the soldiers, 50 more archers prepared their weapons. 100 arrows would fire at once. Even a Drakari could not survive that much energy. Far below in the ship, Captain Taiho fought like a madman. His iron ravens had split into 3 groups. They were trying to reach the observation deck, but thousands of traitor soldiers blocked their way. "Deck 15 is clear," Sergeant Nari reported through the radio. Her voice was tight with effort. "Deck 12 is still fighting," added Corporal Hyun. "We are winning, but it is slow." Taiho kicked down a door and fired his rifle at 3 Drakari soldiers. They fell quickly. Human weapons were less powerful than Drakari energy beams, but humans were faster and smarter. "How much time do we have?" Private Siak asked. Taiho checked his watch. "Maybe 5 minutes before they execute her." "Sir, that is not enough time. We need 15 minutes to reach the observation deck." "Then we make our own time," Taiho said grimly. He pulled out a small device from his pack. It was a gravity charge designed to break through ship hulls during boarding actions. Very illegal to use inside a ship. Very dangerous for everyone nearby. "Sir," Hyun said nervously, "that could kill us all." "Not using it will definitely kill the Empress," Taiho replied. "Sometimes you have to risk everything to save what matters." He set the charge against the wall and activated a 30-second timer. Everyone get back. The explosion shook the entire ship. Metal and wires flew everywhere. When the smoke cleared, there was a hole big enough for a person to crawl through. "That leads to the main power conduits," Siak said, studying his scanner. "We can follow them straight up to Deck 50. "The conduits are full of electricity," Nari warned. "One wrong move and we are dead." "Better than letting our Empress die alone," Taiho said. One by one, the iron ravens crawled into the hole. Electric cables sparked around them. The air was hot and smelled like burning metal, but they kept moving. On the observation deck, General Minho continued his speech. For too long, our empire has been infected by alien ideas. Weakness disguised as compassion. Failure disguised as cooperation. The archers raised their bows. Energy strings hummed with power. Each arrow could punch through tank armor. Today, that infection ends, Minho declared. Today, the Drakari Empire returns to its true purpose. Purity, strength, victory. Yuna looked up at him. You are making a mistake, General. Fear is not strength. Hate is not purity. Pretty words from a dead empress. I may die today, but the idea I represent will live forever. You cannot kill hope with arrows, Minho laughed coldly. Watch me. He raised his hand. The archers drew their bowstrings back. 100 arrows of light prepared to fly. In the power conduits, Taiho and his team climbed as fast as they could. Sweat poured down their faces. The heat was almost unbearable. Deck 40, Hyun panted. 10 more to go. I can hear them talking above us, Nari whispered. The execution is about to start. Taiho pushed himself harder. His hands were burned from touching hot cables. His lungs ached from breathing superheated air, but he did not slow down. Sir, Seok said, even if we reach the observation deck, how do we get through the floor? It is made of reinforced metal. Taiho pulled out his last gravity charge. The same way we got this far. That is your last one. If this does not work, it will work, Taiho said firmly. It has to work. They reached deck 50. Taiho could hear General Minho's voice clearly now. The ceiling above them vibrated with the sound of 100 soldiers standing in formation. Citizens of the Empire, Minho announced, witness the birth of a new age. Taiho placed the gravity charge against the ceiling. He set the timer for 10 seconds. When this goes off, he told his team, I go first. You follow and protect the Empress, no matter what happens to me. Sir, Nari said, we should go together. No, if I fail, you need to be alive to try again. The charge beeped its countdown. 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1. The explosion was massive. It tore a hole in the floor of the observation deck. Smoke and fire erupted upward. Through that hole, Captain Taiho launched himself like a missile. He wore stolen Drakari power armor that he had taken from a dead soldier. It was damaged and sparking, but it still worked. Blue energy crackled around his body as he flew upward. Time seemed to slow down. Taiho could see everything with perfect clarity. General Minho stood beside the cameras, his mouth open in shock. 100 archers held their bows ready. Their arrows glowed like small suns. Empress Yuna knelt in the center, her head raised defiantly. And between them all, Captain Taiho spread his arms wide. Fire! General Minho screamed. 100 arrows of pure energy streaked through the air. They moved at the speed of light. Nothing could stop them, but Taiho did not try to stop them. Instead, he made his body into a shield. He positioned himself directly between the arrows and the Empress. The arrows hit him from every direction. Energy crashed into his armor like a storm. The power was enough to destroy a building. It should have vaporized him instantly. But something impossible happened. Instead of dying, Taiho absorbed the energy. His armor glowed brighter and brighter. Lightning danced across his skin. The air around him crackled with power. He was still standing. The Drakari soldiers stared in disbelief. Their most powerful weapons had failed. A single human had survived what should have been certain death. Impossible, General Minho whispered. Taiho turned around slowly. His eyes glowed with blue fire. Energy leaked from the cracks in his armor like blood. You missed, he said simply. Behind him, Empress Yuna was unharmed. Not a single arrow had reached her. How? One of the archers stammered. How did you survive? Taiho took a step forward. The metal floor cracked under his feet. You want to know the secret of human strength? Another step. More cracks appeared. We do not survive because we are tough. We do not win because we are smart. Another step. The soldiers backed away in fear. We survive because we refuse to give up. We win because we will not let good people die. General Minho drew his own weapon, a plasma sword that could cut through anything. You are just one human. We are 100 Drakari. Taiho smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Then this should be interesting. What happened next would be talked about for 1,000 years. The human moved like lightning. His fists hit harder than hammers. His speed was impossible to follow. One by one, the soldiers fell. Their armor meant nothing. Their training meant nothing. Against a human who had chosen to protect someone he cared about, they were helpless. In less than a minute, half of them were unconscious on the floor. Retreat, Someone shouted.
Fall back!
But there was nowhere to run. Taiho stood between them and the only exit. General Minho attacked with his plasma sword. The blade could cut through starship hulls, but when it hit Taiho's armor, it simply bounced off. "What are you?" Minho gasped. "I am what happens when you threaten innocent people," Taiho replied. He grabbed the general's sword and crushed it with his bare hand. Then he lifted Minho off the ground and held him in the air. "The coup is over," Taiho announced loudly, making sure the cameras caught every word. "Anyone who wants to continue fighting will have to go through me." He looked directly into the camera lens. "And I promise you that will not end well." Throughout the fleet, soldiers watched in amazement. Some had supported the coup. Others had opposed it. But all of them understood one thing now. The humans were not weak. They were not cowards. And they were not going to let anyone hurt their friends. General Minho tried to speak, but Taiho squeezed his throat gently. "The Empress will decide what happens to you. Until then, you will be quiet." Empress Yuna stood up slowly. She looked at the devastation around her. 50 soldiers lay unconscious. The observation deck was destroyed. And in the center of it all, one human stood glowing with impossible power. "Captain Taiho," she said softly. "Thank you." Taiho turned to face her. The energy was already fading from his armor. He was starting to look tired. "Your Majesty," he replied with a bow. "It was my honor." But even as he spoke, Taiho could feel something wrong inside his body. The power that had saved them was burning him up from the inside. He had won the battle. But the war was not over yet. Captain Taiho fell to one knee. The energy that had made him invincible was now killing him. His armor sparked and smoked. Blood leaked from the cracks in the metal. "Captain," Empress Yuna rushed to his side. "What is happening to you?" Taiho tried to smile, but his face was pale with pain. "The storm is ending." "It always ends. What storm?" "I do not understand." Sergeant Nari and the other Iron Ravens climbed up through the hole in the floor. When they saw their captain, their faces went white with fear. "Sir," Nari said quietly. "How long do you have?" "Maybe 10 minutes, Taiho replied. "Maybe less." Empress Yuna looked between them. "Someone explain this to me." "What is the storm?" Nari knelt beside her captain. "Your Majesty, humans have a secret. Something we never told the other species." "What secret?" "When we face impossible danger, when someone we love is about to die, some of us can touch something beyond normal limits. We call it the storm." Corporal Hyun nodded. "It lets us do impossible things. Move faster than thought. Hit harder than machines. Survive what should kill us. But it has a price," Private Siak added sadly. "The energy burns us up from inside. No human has ever survived the storm for more than an hour." Yuna stared at Taiho in horror. "You knew this would happen? You knew saving me would kill you?" Taiho coughed and blood came out of his mouth. "Yes, why? Why would you throw your life away for me?" "Because some things are worth dying for," Taiho said simply. "Because the galaxy needs leaders who believe in hope instead of fear." Around them, the captured Drakari soldiers listened in shock. They had thought humans were weak. They had believed their own species was superior. But this human had chosen to die rather than let evil win. General Minho struggled in Hyun's grip. "This changes nothing," he snarled. "One human sacrifice cannot stop what has already begun." As if to prove his point, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridors. "What is that?" Yuna asked. Nari checked her communication device. "Your Majesty, we have a problem. Half the fleet is still loyal to the general. They are preparing to attack the other half." "How many ships?" 500 vessels, Your Majesty, including 3 of the heavy dreadnoughts." Yuna felt her heart sink. Even if they had won this battle, the war was just beginning. The Empire would tear itself apart. "There is more, Your Majesty," Hyun reported. "The general's supporters are not just military. They control several important worlds. If this turns into a civil war, millions will die." Taiho struggled to stand up. His legs shook, but his will was still strong. "Then we stop it before it starts." "Sir, you can barely walk," Siak protested. "You need medical help." "Medical help cannot fix what is wrong with me," Taiho said. "But maybe I can fix what is wrong with the Empire." He looked at Empress Yuna. "Your Majesty, I need you to broadcast a message to the entire fleet." "What kind of message?" "Tell them the truth. Tell them what really happened here. Show them that humans are not their enemies." Yuna nodded. "But will that be enough?" "No," Taiho admitted. "But it is a start. General Minho laughed bitterly. You think a speech will change anything? My people have made their choice. They would rather die than bow to alien influence. Tejo walked over to the general. Each step was agony, but his voice was steady. Then maybe it is time they learned what humans do when people choose to die rather than live in peace. He turned to his ravens. Nari, I need you to get to the communication center. Make sure the Empress's message reaches every ship. Yes, sir. Hyun, Siak, gather the other human units. Tell them what is happening. Tell them to prepare for battle. Sir, Hyun said hesitantly, there are only 300 humans in the entire fleet. The general's forces have 50,000 soldiers. Then we will have to be very clever. Taiho replied. As his people prepared to leave, Taiho felt another wave of pain wash through his body. The storm energy was tearing apart his cells. He could feel his organs shutting down one by one, but he could not stop now. Too many lives depended on what happened in the next few hours. Your Majesty, he said to Yuna, I need to tell you something about the coming battle. What? I will not survive to see the end of it. But my people will, and they will remember what you stood for today. Yuna felt tears in her eyes. There must be something we can do. Some way to save you. Tejo shook his head. The storm does not give life back. It only borrows it for a little while. Then why did you do it? Because sometimes borrowing a little time is enough to change everything. The ship's communication system crackled to life. General Minho's supporters were broadcasting their own message to the fleet. Citizens, a new voice announced. The false empress has been captured by human terrorists. We will destroy her ship and all who support her. The empire will be cleansed. Taiho smiled grimly. They are making this easy for us. What do you mean? Yuna asked. They just told everyone that humans are the enemy. Now when my people do impossible things to protect you, the galaxy will know why. Over the next hour, Captain Taiho led the most incredible battle in human history. Despite his failing body, he coordinated 300 humans against an army 50,000 strong. The humans did not fight like normal soldiers. They fought like the storm itself. When rebel ships tried to ram the Eternal Glory, human pilots flew their fighters directly into the enemy engines. They died in the explosions, but they saved the flagship. When rebel Marines tried to board through the cargo bays, human soldiers held them off with impossible courage. They fought until their weapons ran out, then fought with their hands. When rebel officers tried to sabotage the ship's life support, human engineers fixed the damage while enemy fire rained down around them. Each act of sacrifice was broadcast across the fleet. Aliens who had once doubted human strength watched in amazement as these strange creatures chose death over dishonor again and again. Why do they fight so hard? Asked a Falari captain watching the battle from his own ship. Because that is what humans do, replied his Zephyrian tactical officer. They do not know how to give up. On ship after ship, alien crews began to change sides. They could not watch human sacrifice and remain neutral. If these strange creatures were willing to die for the Empress, then maybe the Empress was worth dying for. General Minho watched his support crumble with growing rage. Fools, he snarled. They are being manipulated by human propaganda. But Taiho knew the truth. This was not propaganda. This was something much more powerful. This was what happened when people saw real courage in action. As the battle raged around the fleet, Taiho felt his strength fading fast. The storm had burned through most of his life force. He had minutes left, not hours, but the mission was almost complete. The Empire was choosing unity over division, hope over fear. Sir, Sergeant Nari reported, the rebel fleet is breaking apart. Ships are surrendering all across the battle zone. Good, Taiho whispered. What about General Minho's core supporters? About 50 ships are still fighting, but they are outnumbered 10-1 now. Taiho nodded. The battle was won, but there was still one more thing he had to do, something that would ensure this kind of betrayal never happened again. Nari, he said, I need you to do something for me. Anything. Sir, when I die, make sure the galaxy remembers why. Make sure they understand what humans are really capable of. Sir, you are not going to die. We will find a way to save you. Taiho smiled sadly. My friend, some storms are too powerful to survive, but they can still change the landscape forever. He looked out at the stars one last time. Soon he would join them. But the Empire would live on, stronger and more united than ever. That was worth any price. General Minho made his final desperate move. If he could not have the Empire, then no one would. From his command ship, the Iron Fist, he activated a terrible weapon. Deep inside the Eternal Glory, the main reactor began to overload. The safety systems had been sabotaged by his remaining loyal soldiers. "Citizens," Minho broadcast to the fleet, "if the Empire cannot be pure, then it will burn. In 10 minutes, this ship will explode with the power of a small star. Everything within a light hour will be destroyed." On the flagship's bridge, panic filled the air. Engineers ran to their stations trying to stop the overload. But the damage was too severe. "How bad is it?" Empress Yuna asked the chief engineer. "Your Majesty," the old Drakari replied with fear in his voice, "the quantum reactor is past the point of no return. We have maybe 8 minutes before total cascade failure. Can we evacuate the ship? Not in 8 minutes. We have 10,000 people aboard. Even if we had enough escape pods, we could not launch them all in time." Yuna felt her heart break. All around her, good people were about to die because of one man's hatred. But Captain Tejo heard the report differently. He saw not a disaster, but one final chance to save everyone. "Your Majesty," he said weakly, "I need to get to the reactor core." Sergeant Nari grabbed his arm. "Sir, you can barely stand. The reactor chamber is 20 decks down and heavily shielded." "Then you will have to carry me," Tejo replied simply. "Sir, even if we could get you there, what could you do? The overload cannot be stopped." Tejo looked at his loyal friend. "Nari, do you trust me?" "With my life, sir." "Then trust me one more time." Despite her fears, Nari helped Tejo toward the elevator. Corporal Hyun and Private Siak came with them. The Iron Ravens would not let their captain face death alone. As they descended through the ship, Tejo explained his plan. "The storm energy is still inside me. It is killing me, but it is also incredibly powerful." "Sir, what are you thinking?" Hyun asked nervously. "I am thinking that maybe I can contain the explosion. Create a pocket in space-time that absorbs the energy instead of releasing it." "That is impossible," Siak protested. "The quantum physics alone—" "Physics has rules," Tejo said with a weak smile. "But the storm does not follow rules." They reached the reactor level. The air was thick with radiation warnings and emergency alarms. Through the heavy doors they could see the massive reactor core. It was a sphere of pure energy, held in place by magnetic fields. Those fields were failing. "Sir," Nari said quietly, "this will definitely kill you." "I was already dying," Tejo replied. "At least this way my death means something." He hugged each of his ravens. "Tell the galaxy what happened here. Tell them that humans chose to save everyone, even their enemies." "We will never forget, sir," Hyun promised. "Good. Now get back to the bridge. Make sure the Empress survives what comes next." The Iron Ravens saluted their captain one final time. Then they ran toward the elevators, tears streaming down their faces. Tejo walked alone into the reactor chamber. The energy inside was beyond imagination. It was like standing inside the heart of a star. The heat should have killed him instantly. The radiation should have turned his bones to dust, but the storm protected him. For these final moments, he was more than human. He was a force of nature itself. "All right," he said to the glowing sphere of destruction. "Let us dance." Tejo placed his hands on the reactor core. Immediately, pain beyond description shot through his body, but he held on. The storm energy inside him reached out to touch the reactor's power. Two impossible forces met and began to merge. On the bridge, Empress Yuna watched the reactor readings with growing hope and terror. "What is happening?" she asked the chief engineer. I do not know, Your Majesty. The overload is still building, but something is containing it. The energy is not spreading through the ship. How is that possible?" The engineer stared at his instruments in disbelief. "According to these readings, someone is creating a localized space-time distortion around the reactor core. They are bending reality itself." Yuna understood immediately. Tejo. Deep in the reactor chamber, Captain Tejo felt his body beginning to dissolve. The energy was too much for any living creature to contain. But he did not let go. Around him, space itself began to warp. He was creating a bubble of altered physics, a place where the explosion could happen without affecting the normal universe. "Come on," he whispered to himself. "Just a little longer. Just long enough." The reactor reached critical mass. For a brief moment, the power of a star was unleashed in the heart of the ship. But instead of destroying everything, the explosion folded in on itself. Teiho's impossible sacrifice had created a pocket dimension that absorbed all the destructive force. The eternal glory shook violently. Lights flickered throughout the ship, but when the shaking stopped, they were still alive. In the reactor chamber, there was only silence. The massive sphere of energy was gone. The magnetic containment fields were dark. And of Captain Teiho, there was no trace at all. He had not just died. He had been unmade at the quantum level, his very atoms scattered across dimensions. But the ship was safe. The fleet was safe. The Empire was safe. On the bridge, Empress Yuna fell to her knees and wept. Around her, officers of every species stood in silent respect for the human who had saved them all. General Minho's remaining ships surrendered without firing another shot. How could they continue fighting after witnessing such sacrifice? The coup was over, but the real change was just beginning. In the days that followed, Empress Yuna began rebuilding the empire. Her first law granted full citizenship to all species. Her second law created a new military structure based on merit, not blood. The Iron Ravens became the core of the new Imperial Guard. They were given the highest honors and charged with training the next generation of soldiers. But more importantly, the story of Captain Teiho spread throughout the galaxy. Every species told it to their children. Every soldier learned about the human who chose death over dishonor. Humans were no longer seen as weak or inferior. They were recognized as the most courageous species in the galaxy. Their ability to sacrifice everything for others became legendary. The Falari wrote songs about Teiho's last stand. The Zephyrians built monuments to his memory. Even former enemies spoke his name with respect. Years passed. The war with the Nexari coalition ended in victory. The Empire became stronger and more united than ever before. Dozens of species worked together in harmony. Empress Yuna ruled wisely for 40 years. When she was old and ready to retire, she chose her successor carefully. Not a Drakari noble, but a young human woman named Captain Hana, one of the first graduates of the new Integrated Military Academy. "Are you sure about this?" Yuna's advisors asked. "A human empress?" "I am certain," Yuna replied. "Captain Teiho taught us that leadership is not about what species you belong to. It is about what you are willing to sacrifice for others." On the day of her coronation, Empress Hana stood before representatives from 1,000 worlds. In her speech, she told the story of Captain Teiho one more time. "We call it the human way," she concluded, "not because only humans can do it, but because humans showed us what was possible. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing to act despite that fear." In the palace gardens, a simple memorial stood where Teiho's empty tomb should have been. The inscription read, "To Captain Teiho and the Iron Ravens who prove that heroes are not born, they choose to be." But the real memorial was the Empire itself. 1,000 worlds living in peace, 100 species working together. A galaxy where courage mattered more than bloodline. Children of every species learned about the Battle of Valdris Prime in school. They studied the moment when one human chose to shield a princess from 100 arrows. They learned that sometimes, one person's choice can change the destiny of entire civilizations. And in the depths of space, where quantum energies swirl in patterns beyond normal understanding, some say that Captain Teiho's spirit still watches over the empire he died to save. The storm had ended, but its legacy would last forever. The human way had become the galaxy's way, and the universe was better for it. In every generation, when darkness threatens and hope seems lost, someone remembers the story of the human who stood against impossible odds. They remember that courage is a choice, not a gift, and sometimes that memory is enough to light the way forward. The princess had lived. The empire had survived, and the dream of unity among all species had become reality. Captain Teiho would have been proud.